Now, it is my pleasure to introduce the next speaker. Dr. Eric Hines is an expert on offshore wind development and the entire offshore wind industry. With 25 years of experience, he's got a degree from Princeton, a Fulbright scholar, a PhD from UC San Diego. I don't know what he's doing hanging around with a bunch of working class union organizers. But that's the point. That's the point. We're making a difference from the ground up, and we're going to lead the way 100%. So without further ado, let me introduce Dr. Eric Hines.
Thank you, everyone, for having me here. It's a real pleasure to be invited into this conversation. Thank you for the introduction. I'm tremendously grateful for Governor Healy's words and for her strength and confidence and for her emphasis and teamwork and all that is going into it. President Lynch, thank you so much for your words and for this. You can just feel this moving forward, and you can feel the moment that we're in. And we're in the midst of a generational project right now. And a lot of what I want to talk about in this presentation, and then we'll bring the panel up and we'll talk about this further, are the issues related to what does it mean for us to be in the middle of this generational project, and what does the teamwork look like? And so this is where we are today. Just in the last few months, Massachusetts and New England have issued the largest offshore wind procurement in their history. Last week, the bills for economic development and climate were passed and sent to the governor's desk. And today, here we are with the Winds of Prosperity report. These are things that are all important in their own right on the scale of years. And these are all happening within a period of months. And this is what's been going on for years now in New England. And as we look at the report, I encourage you to read it and to get excited about it and to think about all of the opportunities that this report points to and what we are talking about developing and what we need. In order to get these turbines are these remarkable machines, the largest machines in the world. In order to install them in the water, you need an infrastructure that can support them in all these different ways. And this report is really about the infrastructure, about the ports, about the component manufacturing, about the supply chain, about the vessels, about the transmission, and about the people who are going to make this happen, and about the labor standards, and about the labor practices. And there is no better region in the country positioned to ensure and to set the example for how this is done right with regard to labor and environment. And so the teamwork that we have, and that is shown in this room right now, and has been shown over the last several years, between labor and environment coming together, is remarkable. It's an example for the country. And the level of collaboration and teamwork that we're seeing between the states and our region is also something that is quite new and something that is growing and something that really promises to be a power that is going to deliver all of these things that we aspire to. And so if we go back just 1 year, when Vineyard Wind started staging out of New Bedford, out of the port of New Bedford, this is an exciting time. This is one of the largest offshore wind farms in the Western Hemisphere. American workers are installing the largest offshore wind turbines in the Western Hemisphere. We couldn't really start small. We had to go straight to the biggest wind farm you can imagine. We've been building up to this, and it's really remarkable what has come together in this time. 10 years ago, we completed this marine commerce terminal. Again, if you think in a generational sense, you can't just snap your fingers and all of a sudden have the infrastructure in place. This has to be planned in advance. There was a different time when this was being built. This was envisioning the future of this industry. But at the same time, in 2014, just think about how much has happened between then and now and how much progress we've made. 2 years later, the state of Rhode Island built the first offshore wind farm in the United States, the Block Island Wind Farm. It's been functioning fantastically. We actually have a cutting-edge research program that has worldwide notoriety that was able to be executed because the state of Rhode Island built the wind farm in state waters and actually included it in the permit for the wind farm that we had to do this research. And so we're working with the Department of the Interior, with the state of Rhode Island, the state of Massachusetts, to build up American expertise in offshore wind design, to innovate our future, to take control of our own destiny based on measurements from our own offshore wind farms. This slide will show you a picture going from 2014 to 2019. Just remember that in 5 years, the turbines grew by a factor of 3, and the price went down by a factor of 3. This is something that in 2014, when we completed the New Bedford Marine Commerce Terminal, that no one could have ever imagined. I can't emphasize enough how much this shattered expectations. And around 2014, 2015, the thought of offshore wind coming down below $100 a megawatt hour, even in Europe, was unthinkable. And so what happened after that, as a result of that, the growing confidence, the reduction in prices, the increased interest in financing these, and the reduction in interest rates, this all gathered steam together to create an industry that literally we now take for granted, but is something that 10 years ago could not be imagined. So just think about what has happened in the last 10 years. By the end of that 5-year period in 2019, the International Energy Agency had published an offshore wind outlook that proclaimed that we have enough offshore wind in the world to power the entire world 11 times over in 2040. We are not going to run out of this resource. This is a global market. There is an opportunity for Massachusetts and New England to build our own offshore wind industry and to participate in the global market. And this is what's at stake right now as we create these jobs. We're creating a foundation for jobs for the future, going ahead decades and generations in our own energy transition and in the global energy transition. New England can and must play an outsized role in delivering the global energy transition. This starts by us doing the work in our own backyard, understanding how it works, really knowing what we're doing, and then sharing this widely. This is some photos from our colleague Andy Benedetto last year as the workers were putting together the first offshore wind turbines. Really these magic moments, working 24/7, erecting these turbines in the Vineyard Wind project. And erecting them in an area of the country that has one of the best offshore wind resources that we can imagine. You can see in that map up where we are in New England, the wind speeds go from 9 to 10 meters a second. And if you think that the wind speed is the cube, the power is the cube of the wind speed, that much means you multiply it by itself once, twice, 3 times. You compare 10 meters a second to 7 meters a second, you get almost 3 times the amount of power. We have incredibly powerful wind in this part of the country. It is our own homegrown natural resource. We have never really produced our own energy, and we are ready to play an outsized role in producing our own energy and even exporting energy to other parts of the country. Same map as you think about the need for development of transmission infrastructure. This is a study that we've been working on for several years with the U.S. Department of Energy, with our colleagues in the Midwest at Iowa State and Clemson University, determining, well, what's going to happen? Because in our part of the country, we can't build wind and solar on land at the level that we need to deliver the energy transition. And as a matter of fact, this is exactly why we went offshore and why we needed to go offshore. In our latest study, we had the luxury of going to 2050 and working backwards and saying, what do we need to do to get to 2050? We need, by this study, 367 gigawatts of offshore wind. 367 gigawatts, 367,000 megawatts of offshore wind in order to complement the land-based wind and the solar that we're building. So we are at the ground floor of something bigger than any of us can imagine. We are also in a part of the country where everybody knows that the electricity prices are high. The electricity prices got this high before offshore wind came along. We are already dealing with this. We are importing our energy, and this is from 2022, and I look at my own bills. I can't read the slide from here, but I'm sure you guys can. We're paying now, if I do this in PPA terms, we're paying $365 a megawatt hour for electricity. Our electricity is expensive. When we start building our own electricity, our own infrastructure, we are going to bring the prices down. In order to do that, we have to invest. And if we think about how the country has invested in the past, this is the Hoover Dam. The Hoover Dam is almost 90 years old. As far as I know, no one's talking about tearing the Hoover Dam down anytime soon. And this dam was part of a series of construction projects in the western part of the country, specifically also in the Pacific Northwest, where electricity prices now, because of this infrastructure that's almost 100 years old, are the lowest in the country and have given rise to so many important industries in our country. So we are investing not just in these early projects, but we are investing in the next 100 years. And as we think about this, these are the time frames on which we're working. There are ways to think about developing further vessels. There are also ways to think innovatively about building turbines and floating them out. We can actually build turbines. The technology already exists to build turbines without the installation vessels. This is ours to innovate, this is ours to own, and ours to take in a new direction. And finally, I leave you with this thought, that as environment and labor and the states all come together, we have an opportunity to build something in the ocean that makes the ocean healthier. Quite literally, if we build this right, we can bring back fishing stocks, we can increase the health of the ocean, we can increase biodiversity. It is up to us to design and construct this in a way that is reflective of the world that we want to live in together. So thank you very much, and I invite our panel. So joining me on the stage is going to be Casey Bowers from the Environmental League of Massachusetts, Jeff Plaisted from IBDW 223, Aziz Dekhan from the Connecticut Roundtable on Climate Jobs, and Yvonne Toby from Building Pathways South. I'm going to ask the panelists to introduce themselves briefly, and then we'll embark on a series of questions. Aziz, why don't we begin with you? Just give a brief introduction.
Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, wherever you are in time zones. My name is Aziz Dekhan. I'm the Executive Director of the Connecticut Roundtable on Climate and Jobs. We work with our labor brothers and sisters. We work with environmentalists and other partners to create jobs and create good working jobs in the climate industry. I love what Eric was saying about, we need to push this thing forward. Governor Healy said the same thing. We're excited about what we are able to do in this tri-state region. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Yvonne Toby. I'm the Program Director for a pre-apprenticeship program, Building Pathways South, where we have a 240-hour curriculum over a course of 7 or 13 weeks, preparing folks to be the best applicants they can be for the union building trade of their choice. We have offices here at the IBEW and offices, classroom space in New Bedford, Massachusetts.
Hi, I'm Casey Bowers. I'm grateful to be here today. I'm the Executive Director of the Action Fund at the Environmental League of Massachusetts, and we're really proud partners with all the folks in this room when it comes to building offshore wind.
My name is Jeff Plaisted. I'm a business agent organizer here at Local 223, and first and foremost, a 25-year union electrician.
Thank you to our panel. Yvonne, if you don't mind, I'd like to begin with you. And I would like you to tell us a little bit about the Building Pathways South program, and can you explain the difference between a pre-apprenticeship program and an apprenticeship program?
Well, Building Pathways South started in 2018 as a result of work done by the Southeastern Massachusetts Building Trades Unions and the Brockton and vicinity trades unions. And they decided that with the union population, the members were aging out. A lot of people were taking their retirements. And in order to have a more diverse workforce, they thought that they should put together a pre-apprenticeship program. So they created a curriculum, submitted it to the Massachusetts Division of Apprenticeship Standards. And when I came on, we had a goal of having one class, 10 people, 6 weeks, and that was in 2018. We've done quite a few more than that, and we're proud. The difference between apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship, you said pre-apprenticeship, apprenticeship. I'm going to flip it. And I'm going to flash you all back because I always have a story, so here's my story for today. Let's flash back 200 years. You're around the dinner table, you're a little boy, you're 7 years old, and your father comes in and tells you that you're going into service. You're going to go and live and work and get room and board by Mr. Scrooge. And you're going to stay with Mr. Scrooge for 7 years, learning the trade of accounting. That young man is an apprentice. He's going to apprentice with Mr. Scrooge His father tells him, you'll get your room and your board, you'll get 2 shillings a week, send 1 shilling home. So now go and pack your little duds and I'll see you at Christmas time. That's apprenticeship 200 years ago. Fast forward another 100 years, we're in America and the unions have a good strong hold on the workforce. Everyone understands how important it is to be in a union, and the union recruits people, usually their sons, their uncles, their fathers, never their daughters, and they bring them into the union. You're kind of sponsored, and you learn the trade. So you're learning the trade from someone who has a lot of experience, like an intern or a trainee. And when you're in the union nowadays, you're learning this and you're getting paid very well to learn your trade. So now we've gone back 200 years and we fast forward 100, let's go up another 100 years to today. The unions don't have as big a hold on the labor, the employment that they had 100 years ago. Somehow it lost its popularity, and we're working on letting people know that the unions are still here, they have good jobs, and we want you to apply. Again, not just for our sons and our brothers and our uncles, but for everyone. So Building Pathways South goes out to the community and educates people on exactly what a union is about. That's where we start with our information sessions. The pre-apprentice program is sort of like your introduction to construction. So we take people and we have them totally understand exactly how hard it is, but satisfying, to be in the union building trades. You can do very well, but you have to be committed. So we try to give them a good idea of what it's like. We start our classes at 6:45 a.m. We don't make that 6:50, we make it 6:45. We don't tolerate tardiness or absenteeism. We do random drug testing, and we prepare them with 40 hours of construction math, several hours in offshore wind 101, and a myriad of other things are part of our curriculum. So that sort of sums us up in a nutshell. We are reaching out to the communities that maybe don't know the opportunities that are available to them and making it known.
Thank you, Philip, very much. I'd like to move. I'd like to move from apprenticeships and pre-apprenticeships to work in the union. And Jeff, your career as an electrician in the union, and specifically your work on the Vineyard Wind project, would you share some of your reflections on this?
People sometimes ask me how has being an IBEW electrician changed my life. It's actually formed who I am as a man. I got into my apprenticeship when I was 25 years old, and I knew early on that a career as an IBEW electrician was the path I needed to take to live the life I wanted to live. So it's formed as a 50-year-old man. It's formed who I am. I would actually say that two things in my life that has formed me as a man are following the Grateful Dead in my teens and early 20s. And starting an apprenticeship at age 25 as an IBEW electrician. And here I am now as a business agent for Local 223. Our training's unmatched. As far as the wind goes, I worked on the wind project for Hines. We pulled the transmission cable from the beachhead where Prismian brought their cable offshore to a vaults on the beach at Craigville Beach on Cape Cod. And then through a duct bank system, 5.5 miles through Barnstable, we pulled that cable to the substation on Independence Drive in Hines. As an inside one, I'm an electrician. That's not the kind of work we see all the time. That's also what you get with IBEW electricians is a well-rounded electrician. We just see so many things in our trade that the prospect of a non-union contractor tackling this work, in the Northeast anyway, I just don't see it as being a reality. We pulled 33 miles of Actually, we should have brought a sample of the cable, and there's pictures back there. You might see it in the tour, but it's 220,000 volt cable we pulled through the streets of Barnstable. 33 miles of high voltage cable, 60-something miles of fiber optic and grounding straight into the substation. As a guy, I mean, I'm not the oldest guy on the job, but I'm not the youngest anymore either, and I love the project. Some of the younger guys didn't like it because it involved road work that we don't normally see, but to get my hands on that type of work and be outside for 10 months, never mind the money, we made good money. So I loved every minute of it.
Thank you, Jeff. Casey, over to you. Can you tell us a little bit about ELM, about your work, and about your partnerships with labor and environment?
Well, it's a tough act to follow, but ELM advocates for responsibly developed offshore wind through strong regional partnerships, but more importantly, partnerships with folks in the room. We were really proud to start the New England for Offshore Wind Coalition. It has since grown with many of the founding members here again today to more than 100 businesses, labor unions, environmental groups, environmental justice groups, and academic members. And I think it's that robust nature of the coalition and the strengths in coming from so many different parts of the Commonwealth and the region. So I'm glad that we have folks from Rhode Island and Connecticut here as well. We are a regional coalition. We're really proud of the work that we're doing there. And quite frankly, we would not be as successful building out what is going to be the biggest lever in driving down emissions in a responsible way without the partnership of the folks in the room. So it's both the biggest opportunity to reach our climate goals, but also the biggest opportunity to shape the next industry and do that with great, well-paying jobs. So we're really happy to be here and proud of the partnerships that we're building and continuing to build.
Thank you. Well, thank you. And so moving to this idea of partnership and to the inspiring work that the states have done on the joint procurement last year, and this question about where is that moving now, Aziz, I'd like to ask you, coming from Connecticut, your perspective here in this partnership, where do you see Connecticut going forward?
Before I do that, Brother Jeff, Grateful Dead. I have to say it. Where are we in Connecticut? We're not doing great, to be honest with you. We were hoping that when the tri-state procurement came out, Connecticut would actually be a part of it. And Governor Lamont has decided at this point to not procure. And I think part of it is what you were talking about earlier, Eric, which is costs. And we keep hearing cost. And a phrase that I really hate, but I can't quite figure out how to say it any other way. We're kicking the can down the road. If we were to put the procurement plan together for the 3 states, if we were able to get power onto the transmission lines and into the grid, we would lower costs in a few years. And we've shown that in countless different policy papers that are out there, including, I think, some that you wrote. So I think what's important to know is Connecticut, we're pushing our electeds in Connecticut to make this happen. But you have to also realize that there's a political piece here that needs to be fixed. And that is that without all of us in this room, without our friends in Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island, we can't get this done. And we need the power of labor behind it to make it get done. And I rarely quote electeds, but we have a representative in the House in Connecticut, Jonathan Steiner, who's quick to say that even if we were to put something into the water today, we wouldn't see anything. If we had permits today, we wouldn't see anything built for 2 years at minimum. So there it is again, that stupid phrase that I can't get out of my brain is we're kicking the can down the road. And we need to stop the kicking and start actually building. And I think Connecticut's well poised for that. The New London State Pier is ready. If you drive up and down Route 95, those transition pieces are huge. And especially, I suggest you go there at night when they're lit up It is a sight to behold. So we're ready. We just need to push our government.
All right, thank you for that, Aziz. Thank you. I believe we have about 15 minutes left for the panel. Is that
25.
20? Oh, okay. We have plenty of time. Okay, so in that case, I think. Well, it's been great for everyone to introduce themselves and sort of hear opening remarks, and then to really appreciate everybody for what you're saying. And I think we'll move the panel into sort of a little more of an organic discussion, and then we'll hold more further applause until the very end of the panel at this point. So I'd like to move into the subject of communities. And Yvonne, I'd like to start with you again and ask this question about how do you see communities transformed? And as we're talking about all of these decisions that need to be made on a higher level in terms of state government, in terms of large-scale commitments and investments, this is really about communities. So tell us about your experience with communities and how we can make the connection between communities' experiences and the decisions that need to be made.
Well, I thought about this question a lot, and changing communities, and it's kind of scary for me to think that Building Pathways South is changing any community. We sort of look at it, we're helping people one person at a time. We do go out into the community because, believe it or not, they don't know that why those wind turbines are there. So we are doing a lot of grassroots education. Again, we focus on changing people, helping them one person at a time, meeting them where they are, whether it's improving their math skills, improving their reading skills. But we also try to have them understand that they have a voice and that they have something to contribute and that they matter. And we want them to know that they can help in their community. We encourage people to register to vote. We don't tell them who to vote for, but we do encourage them to register to vote because that's the first thing you can do to start to make a change. So, and we believe in community service. We believe in that we talk about giving back to the community. We talk to them about volunteering in their community. So, will we, change the landscape in New Bedford? No, but we can also know that, we have people who are successful. We do have the mother who was homeless, who is no longer homeless because she's quite successful in the laborers union. We do have the mother who could not afford to have her kids participate in extracurricular activities, who now does not have to worry about, will there be enough scholarships for my child to participate. So we make sure that people know that they matter. Oftentimes people that come to our programs, they have been overlooked, and we want them to know, again, I can't stress it enough, you have a place in this world, so take your seat at the table. And we let them know, and we promote, of course, union jobs. And I have a lot of friends, like, my union buddy brothers, and they all say that being part of the union is the best thing that they've ever done. They've never said it was the easiest thing that they've done. So I spread that message also. So communities change when individuals change and participate.
The whole time I just wanted to clap while you were saying I get stuck in academia sometimes in the way we do things, and I like the way we do it. So, Jeff, as we talk about communities, and you were engaged in a community as you were constructing this project, and people have had different responses and different understandings to what's going on, and a lot of it related to whether or not people can see the bigger picture or what they're experiencing, in the here and now. And I just was hoping you could share some of your reflections on what was it like engaging the community in Barnstable.
Yeah, I live on Cape Cod too, so I'm well aware of some of the communities think about offshore wind. The fact of the matter is that during that time in Barnstable, not only were the streets under construction for the offshore wind project being one, but there was a major water project going on at the same time. So the people around Hines and Barnstable they weren't happy with all the construction, understandably, you know. But half the people, they didn't know that what we were doing was electrical work. You know, when you look at the 15-foot reel of wire and this big black hose, a lot of them assumed that it was part of the water project. And I would be standing on the road operating the big winch with cars driving by, stuck in traffic. I started telling people would ask, what are you guys doing? Is that for the water? I'm like, yeah, water. Yeah, it's for the water project. But not only that, I live in East Ham, out on the Cape, and it's a very, very liberal, blue Democrat town. I'm actually a member of the East Ham Democratic Town Committee, and I was a delegate to the state convention for East Ham. And as an IBEW Local 223 business agent who worked on the project, I go to these meetings on one Saturday a month and get beat up by these by liberal progressive Democrats who are against offshore wind. And I mean, for me, it's like, I mean, if our goal is to get off fossil fuels, then what are we talking about? You know, and the misinformation campaigns run on the Cape were fierce, and a lot of it comes from social media, and not in my backyard and all that. But I consistently hear people talk about how Vineyard Wind project has destroyed the beach, or they're going to destroy the beach. We've gone through 2 summer seasons on that beach in Barnstable. The project's completely done. They were bringing power through the cables to the substation for a short period of time. 2 summer seasons, the parking lot full of cars, people enjoying the beach, with no clue that any of that work had already been done. And all we hear about how they destroyed the beach. So I mean, I would challenge anybody to take a drive down there at some point and look at the job that was done, making sure that beach was put back the way that we found it. And not to mention the roads paved and where we put the cable. I mean, that's 5.5 mile stretch from the beach to the substation. As somebody who lives in the area, I drive that area a lot, and it's going to mean something completely different to me for the rest of my life. I spend a lot of time on those roads. But so, the community, it's very political. I mean, I don't know how any other way to say it. But if the goal is to reduce carbon footprint and get off fossil fuels, we were lucky in our local in southeastern Mass. We saw solar come through, and our members worked on those jobs for 10 years. We had unbelievable employment because of the solar work. And now we see wind, and for the last 2 years with Vineyard Wind, at one point we had full employment. We had travelers working off our travel book from the other local jurisdictions, and we've never seen this kind of work. It's all directly related to the offshore wind projects. Hopefully we see that in the future. The cabling plant at Briggs Point, Prismium wants to build a cabling plant there. Those are all union jobs that are going to keep us going for 10 plus years with all this work in the future. So we want to see it continue, and it affects the community in all different ways. Most of it's positive from my point of view.
I think it is, and thank you for that. Some of what you're saying, I'm just thinking about it, it's resonating, that number one, working in the union, you all are able to do work that isn't normally part of the book of business. You can do work in a new way because you can transfer the skills. You can actually bring this to these gigantic projects. The idea that we're already building these projects with U.S. labor, with U.S. skills, using this as a new way of transforming things is so powerful. And then the other thing I heard you talk about was the fact that people may or may not have the whole picture. And so people's daily experience is what it is and really can't be denied. All of us have that experience, but how do we help people see the larger picture and actually see that this is part of something? And then being associated with a project and really understanding and feeling all the pride that comes with it and the sense of accomplishment. And I want that, on that question, Casey, of like, you all as an advocacy organization, as an education organization, work with such a wide range of people, helping them to understand their own lived experience and how it relates to the big picture. How do you manage that? How do you work inside of that space?
I mean, I think it's a work in progress, as we just heard from Jeff, and I think one of the strengths of the coalition is the multitude of messengers to reach people where they are, because one message isn't going to work for everyone. Some people are really moved by the environmental piece. A lot of people are really moved by the job piece and the fact that these are jobs in their communities that are going to be, family providing jobs. And then others are, moved by other pieces, but it's the strength of the partnerships that we've built that we can meet people where they are. I think we still have quite a ways to go, particularly as an environmental organization, to make sure, we are listening to folks and not just preaching to folks, which we do like to do. But I do think we are doing a better job, and we will continue to do a better job. And I would be remiss, I know we've done a lot of shout outs to electeds, but I do see Rep. Pat Haddad back there, and I would say that someone who has learned a lot and been at the front lines of making sure that we do have this industry in Massachusetts. I'm really grateful she's here, because I think we wouldn't be here talking about offshore wind if we didn't have the support of the electeds, we didn't have the support of the unions, we didn't have the support of the environs. So as we overcome some of these barriers that are going to come up in the future, it's making sure that we do continue to have everyone in this room continue to listen to folks and continue to make sure that we have the jobs coming here.
All right, thank you. And I do want to extend a special thanks to Representative Pat Haddad, because I know that Representative Haddad, your story in this is very personal and very powerful. And I think that what we see happening is that when people's personal stories start to align with the bigger picture and people find these connections and you see these partnerships and teams building, it's because people are feeling both on a personal level and on a larger scale what's going on. It's not so abstract anymore. And I think that's one of the wonderful things that we see unfolding in New England with people's stories and with people coming together. So I just want to say one more thank you to Representative Haddad for all the work that you did in this original legislation and leading us in this way. So Aziz, back to you. You said we need to get to the governor of Connecticut, and there are the communities, and there are the experiences, and there's the question of how do we communicate across interpersonal community and then at the higher political level. What are your thoughts on those subjects?
How much time do we have?
We have a full 9 minutes left.
Take it.
We can do a jam. I want to put out two words actually on this one, and the words are environmental justice. I don't think we talk about that enough in this kind of group setting. We talk about raising up the middle class, but who comes to the middle class? Or it's people from marginalized communities, people who have had the worst possible environmental damage done to them, asthma rates, poverty, housing issues. Those are all part of the work that we need to continue to do here. Those are the kind of things that the work that we can do in offshore wind, on all kinds of renewable work, that's what raises up the middle class. But people come from marginalized communities into the middle class. And I don't think we talk about that enough sometimes. Environmental justice is about social justice. Environmental justice is about giving people the work that you're providing them, apprenticeship programs, and a pathway up. And in Connecticut, what we don't have is enough vehicles. 28% of the people in Connecticut don't have cars. So no matter how many people we train, you train, how do you get them to work? How do you get them to the 6:45 a.m. call-in to make that happen? And so we have a lot of work to do on justice, and we have a lot of work to be able to continue to work on renewable energy. And if we neglect that piece of it, and we don't continue to talk, at least I'll continue to talk about environmental justice, I think we're missing a big point here. Marginalized communities are just that. And if we continue to ignore it, if we continue to not lift them up with us, I mean, JFK used to say, it lifts all boats, and I'm not sure that that works sometimes. We have a lot of work to do in lifting those boats. And if we don't have people like you folks out here, if we don't have the labor movement to continue to do this work, to teach people that there are jobs that are available, sustainable living wage jobs, I think that's a big part of the work that we need to continue to do. And it's centered at this moment on offshore wind, and we can't let that focus go away. We need to be sure, I think, and the work that you're doing, we need to make sure that we continue this no matter who dictates the work that we're trying to do. And we, as a group, as a tribe, we need to push this thing forward collectively, because if we don't, we're not going to get very far.
Thank you, Aziz. I think what we'll do is we'll do one more round of just closing thoughts. And Yvonne, I really appreciated what you said about one person at a time. I mean, that's really kind of what it comes down to. I think so many of us have that experience, and that builds and that grows in remarkable ways. But I'd love to please have your closing thoughts.
Well, to just follow up on what I said, I'll give you an example. We at this time, my students are here, my trauma students, so I hope you're enjoying this. My instructor is here. He's amazing, and we're on the same page. So surround yourself with like people so that you can get things done. We'll give you an example. We have a woman who is a union carpenter who went through a pre-apprenticeship program called Build It, one of our sister organizations. She has another sister who's in the Build It program, and they have another sister who's graduating from Build It Pathway South on Thursday, and another sister who will graduate from Build It Pathway South on December 13th. So one at a time, turn to two at a time, turn to three at a time, turn to four at a time. I'd like to end mine with just a thank you to all of my union brothers. They're just wonderful to work with. They're excited when I have graduates show up for their interviews. I'd like to thank the Southeastern Massachusetts Building Trades and the Brockton and Vicinity Trades for getting that project labor agreement through. And I especially want to thank my first experience with any project labor agreement, and that's Vineyard Wind and Jen Cullen. They are great to work with. They believe in what they do. And when you have people behind you supporting what you do, it really makes a difference. And no matter what they say, we have got to save the planet. That's what it's all about for me, for my grandkids. Thank you.
I just want to thank everybody for coming out. We are IBW Local 223. We represent Southeastern Mass, Cape Cod, and the Islands. Thanks, Steve, for his words. The guy's a wordsmith. He does a lot better than I do with that stuff. But yeah, the Mass Building Trades, drafting project labor agreement language that supports union workers, and that's what we're going to need, to keep this work ours. And we're all after the same thing. Like the governor mentioned, there's a different administration coming, but we still have to get up every day, go to work, and do our jobs. It's going to be a little bit harder, but I think we'll be all right. We got people on our side, so that's all I got. Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah, I would echo the thanks, and that this is not the time to slow down. We are really at a turning point for the industry. We need to continue to go, full speed ahead, for lack of a better term. But we've seen great progress, and I hope we see great more, and when we're back here in a few years, that we really can hang our hat on the fact that we've done a good job building out this industry, saving the planet, and saving jobs.
All right, thank you, Casey.
I want to thank two people who were not able to come today. That would be Keith Brothers, who's with the Connecticut Building Trades, and Ev Hawthorne, who's with the AFL-CIO in Connecticut. They were unable to be here. They might have spoken a little bit more eloquently than I did on these topics. But and I also want to thank my brother in trouble, Pat Crowley, who always keeps me smiling and keeps me awake. I appreciate it. I want to end it by just saying that we have a lot of education to do. We have to educate people. I think you were the one, Eric, that said there's so much misinformation out there. And the misinformation seems to gather more speed than the information that we give out. We need to raise our voices. And this, this room is we're choir here, right? We need to go out and talk to the people who need to know what's going on. Your chart, your work, all of our work here is so important to do. Let's get out there, get the word out, let's get out there, let's get jobs, and let's do what we need to do, which is to rebuild this country with renewable energy.
Thank you once again to our panel, and thank you to the climate jobs groups for putting this report together and for really bringing this forward. That we are in the middle of this generational project, and it's really important for us to remember the big picture and what we're about, and to remember how connected we are in this partnership moving forward and what we all want to accomplish together. So thank you once again to Climate Jobs, and thank you to our panel.